Hi, Kevin Wright here, back with another property finance tip. And what are we going to talk about this week? Is there a property price crash coming? Keep watching to find out what I think about that. So, property prices, are they going to dive or are they going to go up? Now, to be honest, I'm no Mystic Meg. I haven't got a crystal ball and I can't say whether they will or they won't. But I can look at some background information to give us a longer term view of the property market in the UK. Now, let me caveat that by saying, hey, have you subscribed yet? Click that subscribe button down there and that dingy belly thing so you don't miss any of my videos when they're released, which is every week. Great, thanks. I almost forgot, Instagram. Click that button too. Look, it's down there. Thanks. Go back to 2020, lockdown 1 had just started and a very prestigious estate agency rolled out their top statistician to give a webinar presentation on why the property market, in his opinion, based on all historical data that he could find, and he put up slide after slide after slide to back this up, his prediction was that the property market by December 2020 could fall by 5 to 15%. Clearly the reverse happened. So even top statisticians can't get it right when they're predicting what the property market is going to do. So I've got no chance of getting an accurate prediction, really, have I? But let's look at the background economic situation in the UK and how that relates to property. Now, different countries have different property markets. So what commentators might be saying could be going on in the US or any other country doesn't necessarily translate over here. Now, the reality is that the UK is a relatively small island geographically with a disproportionately large population. For example, France has 6 times the land mass, but broadly similar population. So there's a lot less space to live. Now, that long term has got to have an impact on property prices. Now, for at least the last 2 decades, there's been a housing shortage in the UK. The target to meet the nation's housing needs has been somewhere around 300,000 new homes a year, whether that's greenfield, brownfield or whatever. Successive governments have consistently failed to hit that 300,000-ish target, sometimes missing it by as much as 50%. But simple economics says that when there's a lack of supply, there is high demand. So if there's not enough property to go round on a residential basis, then that's going to underpin property prices for the next decade or more. Now, that doesn't preclude short-term fluctuations in property prices. Now, there may well be in 2022 a drop in property prices, but the underlying shortage of available property is going to buoy up any shortfall so that it recovers. Now, whether it recovers in a matter of months or whether it recovers in a year or two is more difficult to predict. So where does that leave you as a property investor? Well, that largely depends on whether you're buying property to sell and flip for a quick profit or to hold and rent for the medium to long term. Hey, do you know I run in-person one-day events called Buy, Refurb, Refinance Summits? 2 great speakers plus me for a full day in a city near you. Look at the link below to see when the next one is for you. Now, if you're of the flip mentality, then property prices are far more relevant to you because trying to sell in a falling market could seriously hit your margins. And it could even mean that the profit that you intended to make or you benchmark you were going to make is reduced or even eliminated if you're trying to sell into a falling market. So people that are flipping need to be even more aware and attuned to the price they pay. Get your price that you pay slightly wrong and overpay, and that could have a detrimental impact on your profits. Now, if you're buying to hold and rent out for the medium term, it's not so critical, and here's why. Now, if you buy a property in 2022 and there is some short-term fluctuation, you may, on paper, be making a loss on the value of the property compared to what you paid for it. The price crash doesn't happen, that paper loss won't happen, and you might even make a small profit. But here's the point, it's on paper. It's not a real loss or it's not a real profit, because you only really profit or make a loss from a property when you sell it. Now, if you don't plan to sell it for the next 5, 10 or even longer amount of years, then what the price does in the short term, up or down, really is not that significant in terms of your long-term investment. Now, that gives you more security in knowing that the price you pay for a property in 2022 is going to have less impact on the value of that property in 2032 and beyond. So as long as you've got a property that gives you a consistently good income from renting it out for the next few years, short-term fluctuations in property are of little real significance. Now, for anyone trying to time their buying, I think it's as awkward or as difficult in property as it is in any stock market. So if you're expecting the crash and you're not buying property because you're going to wait for that crash to start bottoming out, it's really, really difficult, bordering on impossible, to actually know when it has bottomed out and when is the right time to buy, because invariably the bottom of the market is only apparent some months later when it's already started rising and you've missed the bottom already because you didn't know the bottom was the bottom. So to recap on that, if you're buying to flip, you've got to be very attuned to prices and where they're going to go in the next few months. If you're buying to hold and rent out, if you've got a decent rental property that is going to rent easy and stay rented, and you intend to keep it for, let's say, 10 years plus, well into the next decade, the price you pay in 2022 is nowhere near as critical. So it's a case of working out your strategy. You're going to be in single lets, you're going to be doing multi-lets, HMOs, small HMOs, large HMOs, you're going to be doing service accommodation. Get your strategy defined, understand the demand for that strategy, and if the demand for that type of strategy in the right property in the area you want to invest is strong, then 2022 could be a good year for you to add to your property portfolio. So just to sum that all up, there could be a crash coming, there might not be a crash coming. Either way, prices will recover within the not too distant future and property remains a sound and stable investment given the microclimate of the UK. So that's my property tip for this week. I'll be back next week with another property finance tip video. See you then.
If you enjoyed watching this video, did you know every Monday morning at 8:30 I do a live Facebook Q&A. So if you want to start the week with checking out some answers to your property finance questions, click the link here.